Well, as always, we are in for a very special treat because none of the presentations are is ever boring or repetitive because it comes from a unique perspective of the person presenting. But tonight, it's especially unique and important because, as I just want to tell you, that Tinashe Harris went all the way with our logotherapy courses from the basic to the advanced to the final course, logotherapy for professionals. And he was accompanied there by his expert trainers, Isak and Sean. And when we had the final evaluation at the end of the professional course, what hit home to me very powerfully is that Tinashe actually represents what we all, in essence, are commissioned to do, which is what? You know, Frankel said that we become and we are fully ourselves when we are encountering others in a world out there in a cause that we serve. Because even a single encounter, like a face to face logotherapy session, is a cause. It's part of our mission. Change one life is a Jewish saying, and you change the entire world. But what if you change a whole group of people? Just think how much more quickly we are then changing the world. And you know, this was my passion when I started off our logotherapy training at the University of South Africa. I was busy training clinical psychologists and I got very frustrated. Why? Because apart from the fact that they had to go right up to the doctorate level that takes years and years from when they start off, they are then sitting in ivory towers, seeing individual clients at quite an expensive fee. And it was at the time when the apartheid regime was at its height, and there was great unrest and uprisings and problems in South Africa. The society was virtually torn apart. And I thought, no way am I going to stay where I was? And starting a logotherapy training at what was then the UNISA Center for Applied Psychology, I opened the doors to the whosoever, not even academically qualified in the ordinary sense of the word. Why? Because if we could elicit from our students their will to meaning, and everyone has a will to meaning, and everyone has a restless heart until they found and discovered the meaning and purpose of their lives. And so, why? Does that just apply to people with a doctorate, or does it apply to absolutely everybody? And, you know, to prove my point, I was accredited by our Logotherapy Institute, was accredited by the Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy of the United States. They concentrated on qualified psychologists, okay? And medical professionals. And that is why the American Psychological Association accredited them with CPD points. That is how they operated. And I have attended more than 10 World Logotherapy conferences of the Institute and was well known and actually well respected and loved by its president, Dr. Robert Barnes. And he virtually took me under his wing and certified our institute as a professional training center. But I had to get past this thing that it was only for psychologists. And even Frankl at the time said that logotherapy should be in the hands of medical professionals. But he said he laid a foundation, and on that foundation, wow, how it has exploded as I then let our courses explode into society. And I convinced the Institute in America by bringing students who were not academically qualified as professionals, and bringing an example of one of them that only had a standard 8 certificate, but was doing marvelous, excellent work among orphans of AIDS parents. And they were astounded by the results, by the impact that these students had, as they were motivated in the right way. You reach out, everyone has to reach out to do their share in bettering our world. Okay, society needs us, and South Africa was crying out for this kind of training, and for this kind of inspiration, to actually become skilled to provide a service to the community that is meaning-centered, meaning-centered. And so when we evaluated Tinashe's, I was very profoundly struck by how everything has evolved in our own institute, and that has become recognized in other institutes, that for heaven's sakes, students can do work in absolutely every field. They need not be professionally qualified. They can do it in a lay capacity that is up to a professional level. Because you know why? One of the students that I refer to, that only had a standard 8 certificate, when she brought her sessions, the clinical psychologists among them said, she's lying. She's making it up. It's impossible that she can have such a dramatic impact in one session with a client and bring a life transformative change in the life of that client. And oh boy, that was not fake. So, because sometimes clinical psychologists have been schooled in a particular way of doing therapy that, like Frankl said, no therapy is complete without logotherapy. None. And how Batya and I had Batya Yaniga of the Israel Institute that we established together, shared this with me when we reached out to our Turkish students in Istanbul. They were all clinical psychologists and psychiatrists and social workers, but they were saying, we need something more. And then the more was logotherapy. So we just cut to the quick. But we want students to unlearn a dogmatic way of thinking and to become open. Like Frankl said, we have to be open vessels to be able to be recipiently aware of the needs of those that we want to help. Okay? So without further ado, let Tinashe take the floor and tell you what he's been doing. And I want to just add this, that it wasn't easy for him. Okay, the project, his training went through the COVID years, and it was extremely difficult. And what he started off with actually evolved into something else, and what he has done and what he's going to present to you today. And it was like he was led to where he is today and the kind of work that he will be doing and that his project is an example of. So, Tinashe, please take the floor and tell us a little bit about yourself and your training, the experience of your training, and then present what you did and the results that you got through your intervention among Black students. Okay? Thank you. Tinashe?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. Yes, I was saying I'm not going to have my camera on. The bandwidth might not be that strong. And I believe, well, what we are doing tonight is not really a presentation, but a dialogue of my process, my journey of what I did, the results that I got, and the things that I look forward to doing from the work that I've been doing. So essentially, my training, I think it started around 5, 7 years ago, uh, during the COVID time. And the reason why I started this training is I lost my mother when I was 6 years old, and I never knew my father. And in that process, you are raised by virtually strangers, your extended family. And if you are lucky, you might find people that actually love you for who you are. But it was not the case for me. I did suffer some mistreatment, and throughout the years, you feel neglected, you feel unworthy, you feel unloved. And as time went on, I started beginning to question my purpose on earth, asking why my mother had to die, why my father had to abandon me, why he had to refuse me as still pregnancy. And the more I tried to understand the why, the more frustrated I got, the more angry I became, because such questions, it's rare for you to get the answer. And behold, one of the days I found Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Then I began to realize the stuff that he went through, the things that he went through, resonated with me, and I began to look at it in a different way. And then that's when I joined the Institute Logotherapist as well, for me to be able to help other people that they can be able to heal from their own pain. So through the journey, we had other ideas of the population or participants that we needed to look at. And as Apteria said, we were redirected. Life had a way to redirect us to where we were supposed to be from the beginning. We tried to do with the Wakers, we tried to do the workshops with the old people's home, but nothing worked. And we ended up doing the workshop with students because I'm in the higher education environment. So we ended up having the session with students. And that's when I realized that sometimes we try to create that perfect environment or that perfect situation where you hope or you think you are supposed to make a difference in. So for us, or for me, it was with the Wakers, but then over time in reflection, as we live our life in hindsight, not in foresight. So in reflection, I was able to realize that all the time we need to look at where you are, how you can make a difference where you are currently. Because the people that are there, there is a high chance that they need your help as well. And for us to get that perfect environment it is ideal to get the perfect environment, but it rarely happens. It starts where you are currently, be it in the healthcare sector, be it in the higher education sector. So yeah, that was the journey through from basic to the professional. So the project, how we designed it, we used what we call narrative logotherapy. Oh, sorry. Okay. We used narrative logotherapy to try to understand people's stories because we all have a story. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, we all have a story that shapes how we view the world. So we tried to use narrative logotherapy. So we had what we call the pre-workshop, the narratives in which we asked the students about the different challenges that they were facing. So from insecurity, we had deaths, we had losses, we had rejection, feeling of neglection. Well, we also had emotional hunger, in which now, if you are emotionally hungry, you try to fill that void with other things, your alcohol, your drug abuse, your sex, and all that kind of things. So from those challenges, then we designed a workshop trying to address those challenges that were identified by the students. And the way the workshop was designed was based mainly on Joseph Fabry's Guideposts to Meaning book, which focuses on the self-discovery, your uniqueness, your choices, your responsibility, and your uniqueness. So through the narratives, we developed 6 sessions which looked at your introduction, so trying to introduce the participants to the work of Viktor Frankl, Message for Meaning. Then from there, trying to look at meaning, how do you find meaning within suffering, trying to look at identity and belonging, forgiveness, and releasing the past. And we also looked at the relationships and the role of love in finding meaning and spirituality, transcendence, and connecting with nature. Then we also looked at future goals. So within all these sessions, we had different exercises that required the participants or the students to really look at their stories, to really look at their lives from their childhood up to where they are right now. Because within our families, we are raised with particular values, we are raised with particular beliefs that shape the way that we view the world. So now, when you become an adult, how do you face the world? Do you continue believing the story that you've been told throughout your life that you're unworthy? Do you continue believing that story that you've been told that you are unlovable? How do you view that to try to reframe going forward, to try to reframe in your present moment? How do you want to live? How do you want to envision your future? So after the different exercises that they did, from the results that we got things such as people saying they now discover that they have been through a lot of obstacles in their lives. Because these days, with how busy we are, we lose ourselves and we do not know what the things that we've been through. And sitting down, reflecting on your life, reflecting on the past, it shows you the strength that you have. It shows you all the obstacles, the challenges that you have to overcome to be where you are. If you check, for example, I had people that have been abused, that have been sexually abused, that have been emotionally abused. I had people that felt guilty for the death of their siblings. And these things, they affected how they view the world. They had the guilt, they carried the guilt with them. They thought it was their responsibility that those bad things happen. So trying to look at their stories, reflecting on their past, it shows that, okay, this happened, but was it your fault? What could you have done within that particular situation? Is there anything that you could have done? So trying to reframe how you view what happened in the past. So after the sessions as well, there was also self-awareness, knowing the different patterns, how it has been acting out or showing up in the present. So you find that if you are told that you are unlovable, what are the chances of you staying in a relationship? Do you chase away people from you? The minute something bad happens in a relationship, do you pick and leave? So those are the kind of things which we were able to realize through the stories, because through the stories, people can be able to understand the patterns that inform their decisions, that inform the way that they behave. And also, the stories allowed us to have people being more emotionally expressive, because as human beings, and especially as men, for us, we are told to be strong. We are told not to show any signs of weakness, not to show any signs of vulnerability. And as a result, we keep everything inside of us. And having an environment, a safe environment where people could express how they felt, it allowed them to be more vulnerable, more understanding of all the things that that they were keeping within themselves. So those were some of the results as well, looking at the importance of community, because being in a group setting, it allows you to look at or hear other people's stories and understand that people are also going through similar situations. You are not alone in those situations. And hearing people's stories, people could also pick up from those stories how they handle different situations and try to apply it within their lives. So they did realize that the importance of having that community and importance of having a sense of belonging within the group. So that in general, that is the overview of the workshop. So we had your pre-narratives where they were telling us about their pasts and the things that they're experiencing. Then we had the workshop where we had the 6 sections. And after the sessions, we had the post narratives where they told us about how the sessions helped them or not, how the sessions worked for them, and how they envision going forward. Okay. Do we have any questions so far?
Anyone to question or to comment? As Tinashe said, it's a discussion. It's a discussion, and he has put an example in our midst as to what can be done in a group setting, in people sharing their stories, their life experiences with each other. I think that do you think, let me ask this question, do you think that there is particular power in that perhaps exceed the power that is elicited in just a single face-to-face session with an individual client? Um, um, what are the unique features of doing this kind of group intervention?
Syria, I'm happy to respond if no one else is ready to respond. Is that okay?
Okay.
So, Tinashe, thank you so much for sharing your journey and for sharing your experience in the community. And one of the things that I think that is so important about community and is perhaps brings a whole nother dimension of meaning above an individual session is the fact that we are in relationship, and that we develop the sense of belonging to others
Yes.
who or with others who have had also maybe similar experiences or different experiences, but where they share their courage and they share their strengths and hopes in terms of facing the world and facing their hardships and their challenges. So I think that community brings another level of transcendence through the experience and through which we can make meaning of our lives and of our experiences, and also bring in another dimension, which is that shared collective experience that you have created through the workshop.
Absolutely, Sharon. I think this is such a profound understanding. If we think about what meaning really is, meaning is a sense of a belonging, of feeling connected to, of being accepted by. Like Frankel said, that what we need is an unconditional faith in the meaningfulness of life. And what is that? Is when we get the kind of responses from life that makes us that underlines the second tenet that every one of us has unique dignity and worth. So, and love being the highest of all of those uh, um, expressions of connection and belonging. So, I think that uh, uh, people sharing their stories and connecting to each other in a broader way than just with the individual therapist, that there's great power in that, especially if it is facilitated by someone like Tinashe, a logotherapist, that can focus what Frankel said. What is the common will to common meaning over here? What is it that we all really want? And therefore, or that we have experienced, we need by what we were deprived of. And if that is so, my word, and if we can affirm each other and encourage one another and appreciate each other and see the uniqueness of one another, there's such a push in the direction of going out into the world that you feel now needs you. You don't have to hide away from it or run away from it or lock yourself up in somewhere. You open up, so to speak, to the world, and you step out into that world, and how can you impact the world if you don't step into it? So I think these are some of the very powerful uh, um, elicitations of meaning that a group sharing can give more than an individual session.
Turia, if you will allow me to just also comment
Please.
on a few things. So you're touching on a very interesting point because another student asked me the other day, so where are the limits of what I can or can't do? And specifically as a student now in my research and in my professional field. And my answer to her is there are no limits as long as it's within the bounds of logotherapy. So I think you've touched on it now. And I'm making a general statement, seem to think that we have to sit down with the client uh, and have a one-on-one session and then have another one and another one, or whatever, and we can cure things or we can help them. Um, you can do group sessions, you can do workshops, You can do so many things. Like you say, out there, life will call you and tell you, and that's what Tinashe also told us. We tried many things through his journey. So logotherapy is such a vast and open field, just like life, because logotherapy is about life and about meaning, and you can find meaning in life everywhere. So I don't think we should. What Tinashe has taught us as well is not to limit ourselves to certain thought processes about this is how we should do logotherapy. And then my last comment on that is we said, I think in one of our sessions a few months ago, that Frankel has led the way and he has given us this wonderful thing called logotherapy. But it's upon us to not only uh, do exactly and precisely as Frankel has said, we should also grow the field of meaningfulness and be the Frankels in our own world and in our own fields and explore, to boldly go with logotherapy to other areas, to other places, to other people, to those that need it most. There are no bounds to what we can do. And I think that's what I applaud Tinashe for, not to have thought outside of the traditional tenets of it.
Wonderful, and absolutely so. And the boundaries of logotherapy are moral boundaries. It's boundaries of responsibility. And but before I comment more on that, is there anybody else that just want to add anything?
Yes, I'd like to say something. Yeah, thank you very much, Tinashe. Again, it's always a pleasure to listen to you and the challenge as well to respond, because I think for me it's your work. It's very, very important, and the question, and I'm sure I'm here, an issue which we had discussed before, and I'm bringing it here for me to be corrected as well by everyone if I'm wrong. As much as Terea said it, which I'm so grateful to her, that she brought logotherapy to everyone, taking away the academic barriers, which is very, very important. Very, very important. However, I believe it is also important for us to be very careful not to, as I think it's Franco who said it sometimes, that the talking about, I think, Fabri, if I'm right, should oversimplify logotherapy, but we have to be careful not to vulgarize it. So to make it like anything else can just pass by. And, for me, listening to Tinashe today as well, it's just giving me an opportunity to understand him from where he comes from and what makes him unique. Makes him unique. I definitely believe the group he ran worked out the way they work out because of who he is and because of logotherapy. It's very important for us to realize that, because if we don't realize that, then we can say anyone can just go and run the group and it's going to work out. No, it works out because of the person. By listening to Tinashe himself, you feel a sense of respect of other students, and I'm sure the students look up to him. He respects them. He takes them as real human beings because he's genuine from his own experience. From his own experience. So that brings me to a question which you have asked the place of group, be it a workshop. And again, it brings me to this separation we have of workshop and group therapy, because I've seen it as well in research. You'd find if you are conducting a qualitative research where you are performing interviews of people, there've been situations where you are just asking genuine question, and the person tells you, I feel much better than I've never felt. And you as a researcher, you are even surprised, but I was just asking question, collecting my data. No, it's because of the way you have been collecting those information or data. It does make a difference. So this brings me to an issue we have been having with Tinashe, and we discussed, is the concept of reframing. The concept of reframing. And I'm happy today he has made reference to Fabry. Fabry 5 guideposts includes self-transcendence, which I believe for me, that's what makes logotherapy different from the concept of reframing. Logotherapy brings us to a de-reflection, to listen to what life is calling us, regardless of what has happened. We are not saying we don't want to listen to what happened. We listen to what happened for us to be where we are and to listen to what life is calling us. It's a different concept. There is a self-transcendence going toward. It's not only just sitting and putting the story in a different way. Because if we do that, we are going to be frustrated if meaning is still not found. So for me, reframing is putting things differently. But self-transcendence and de-reflection, it's about redirecting my attention to what life is calling me. And Tinashe's life is that illustration. It is that illustration. Even the experience of you want to conduct the research, COVID comes in, and I love the way he put it. He said, sometimes what we are called to do is around us. Because sometimes we want to do things which we cannot, but life would confine us in that moment, in that COVID. And here you are, you find yourself with students who are looking at you as a lecturer, and you responded to them, and that makes a huge difference. And of course, the title of this presentation is that illustration, one logotherapist with a session in a group. As Terea said, it could be even one session can make a huge difference in many people. Thank you very much for allowing me to say.
Yeah, Kanda, sorry. First of all, Kanda was his co-trainer with, Tinashe's co-trainer with Isa. And they're going on with this wonderful work in expounding, in actually expounding on it in a broader sense with university students and more. But you raised a very important point that I think is tremendously important for us to realize, Kanda. I don't know if you remember the encounter groups. You know, when I was doing my psychoanalytic training, they had this encounter groups. And, you know, everybody just bared their emotions, and it was messy. It was terrible. I hated it because it was like self-indulgence in a group setting. That's what it was. That is really what it was. It's like a spiritual orgy. And I very strongly, with Elizabeth and Lucas, in their group work, moved away from the encounter groups into what exactly you described, Kanda. It's not a question of just making people feel better and coping styles and reframing things. It's that remains on the psychological level, and it does not go on to the transcendent humane level, the uniquely human level. Why is it unique? Because we can self-transcend, because we do seek for a profound meaning in life. We don't just want to live an ordinary day-to-day a planless life, or live as long as possible, as happy and as comfortable and as rich as we can. No, we want to have an impact on the world. We want to understand why we're living. And this is the experiential values on the transcendent level, that we experience life as almost as a partner. And if we go more deeply, when Frankl spoke about the unconscious God and the transcendent, that the unconscious God elicits our will to meaning. We are all unconsciously related to a divine purpose in life. And whether we formulate that divine purpose in another way, it's when we serve and we give out to others in ways that are caring and loving and responsible, and above all, highly moral. We don't indulge in any of the wayward physical things. We help our client, in fact, to keep their emotions intact and to see beyond greed or hostility or lust towards something very much that actually is calling them out of that state, not just a state of fear and anxiety. There are many calls in life, and they all call in the same way in terms of arising to full human stature, which is a stature of moral greatness, of integrity, of care, of taking responsibility, and of dealing also in a very, very resolute way against what is wrong. Not have the courage to defy what is wrong. We even do that confrontationally with students, with clients in therapy, to challenge them morally. We don't teach them, we don't enforce our morals upon them, but we elicit a sense of, is that really good for you? Does that really give you a deep sense of satisfaction? And like you say, if you self-transcend and looked at yourself as if you were another person, how would you evaluate yourself? Would you like yourself? Or would you think, wow, there are things to change over there? There are things that thwart you from being what you can be. Wow, and this is the dimension of the transcendent and of the spiritual, of the noetic, that is not addressed by a mere reframing, or just kind of a supportive role with a client to make them feel a little bit better and they cope a little bit more. It's much, much more than that. So thank you for those remarks, Kanda.
Thank you very much, Terea. Beside that, I would like to say again, I've been saying it, I said it before the first time I met Tinashe. Tinashe is just a special spirit. And for me, I'm sure I got it from Isaac. Tinashe is a new breath of generation of logotherapists in South Africa. And today, actually, we are celebrating him because I just don't know. I've told him, and I'm going to repeat again, Tinashe, that you are in a unique, specific environment where you can just make a huge, huge difference. Truly, truly, that title, the title of today, discussion that one logotherapist make difference applies to you. I strongly, strongly believe in that. That one person, as you are where you are, you have made already a huge difference. You do not realize that. I've seen, yeah, maybe I can give you an example because sometimes, as you said, it's be it in education or even in health, we sometimes think it's only in health where people find healing. I've asked some of my clients if they ever felt loved in their life. And then there is one who clearly told me, listen, the only person who made a difference in my life is my teacher at school. Because that teacher is the only one in my entire life who made me feel matters, who made me feel that I belong. And Tinashe, you are doing exactly that with the group session you have been doing. You might not realize that because the difference you have made in those students goes a long, 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 long way. Please let not underestimate that. So you are in a unique situation which comes with responsibility, and we can only personally wish you more wisdom, more development, because we definitely need that. I think one of the last email Terea wrote about logotherapy in South Africa applies to that. And we need you to play that role because you have the voice and you yourself, you are carrying that. Thanks again for bringing us here today.
Oh, absolutely. Tinashe, would you just tell us exactly what you are doing now and how you think of proceeding, what you actually now want to do with the skills you have gained in logotherapy?
I
Thank
love
you.
that question, Terea.
I knew you'd love that question. Thank you, Dr. Kanda, for your comments. I do appreciate it. And while it's listening to you, I think, towards the end of last year, I am a Christian. I believe in God. And as I was out and about, I met a man that I've never met in my life who came to me and said, you are not living or you're not serving your purpose or your calling in life. And he actually asked me, what do you do for a living? And I told him that I work at a university. And he said, when you look at the students, what is it that you see at the students? Meaning that my calling or my purpose currently is with the students. And to a certain extent, I might not be serving that. Yes, as Christians, our main purpose is to glorify God, but we are all called to do something within that glorification of God. So to answer your question, Teria, the plan now is to facilitate more workshops because when I actually advertised this workshop or this group therapy in the past, I did receive hundreds of emails from the students. And due to the capacity, I could not take more students. So now is try to facilitate more of these discussions to try to find ways of accommodating more people. But thank God for technology. So we're now trying to see if we can have more sessions online or have recorded sessions where people can just listen to some of the information, then try to apply it in their lives. So currently it's try to expand to the students and then try to create more opportunities for people to engage in these meaningful dialogues. Because as Dr. Kandi mentioned, it's not only about the students as well. We do have different communities that we live that surround us. And having these meaningful dialogues within those communities will help us build a better nation where people are living meaningful lives and having those meaningful experiences. So that is the plan, and try also to publish more on the area of logotherapy.
Wonderful. And you so well illustrate what is true of all of us. Life is a journey. You talked about life as a story, and the two are the same. A story works towards hopefully, a triumphant ending, a very meaningful ending. That the start of the story gave impetus to the chapters that followed. And this is the same with our lives. We grow, we spiritually grow, we become spiritually more mature. What does that mean? We become more loving, more astutely aware and sensitive of what people need. And this is part of our training to have this kind of deep experiential exploration of your own life, so that if you discovered, wow, just look how I got through this, and what is it that I really was looking for, and how, and where am I now? Looking back at my past, it gives me new impetus to move into the future, but it's an ongoing story. It's an ongoing journey, but it's a journey from meaning to greater meaning, and from greater meaning to even greater meaning. And in the process, we are transformed to become what Candace said about you, a role model, what Frankl called the echo homo figure, that you as a Christian will well understand. Behold the man, behold the woman, behold this life. Isn't it something magnificent? Isn't it something to emulate? Isn't it something to inspire you? And without such a leader, without such a teacher, the students or the clients, or the society, for that matter, because they need to see this and to experience it from the hand of. So this is such a passionate part of our training aims, that we provoke that journey. That is why I asked you, how do you see how you're going to proceed forward? Because you're just entering another phase of your life, which will prepare you. And this is the wonderful thing. We can't plan ahead. We do what the moment requires. We act where we are, and in what stares us in the face as what we should do. And if we do it, if we say yes to life, we find that the new opportunity opens, another door opens, it comes to you. The future beckons. This is what logotherapy is about. It beckons you to participate in being a life-giving, a life-inspiring model to others. That is what it is. You want to reflect one day, please God, you can, on your deathbed and say, oh, wow, it was worth the journey. It was worth all the hardships and all the overcoming. But what glory that I actually did what I was called upon to do. And you know what? Like you say, then the grave itself opens a door into everlasting life. We know that, whether you're Christian or Jewish, and even if you're not, if you live a very decent, upright, caring, and loving life, you will not be excluded, not in any way. The only people that are forever excluded are those who make it a way of life to murder, to kill, to oppress, to gain dominance over, and to eradicate from the earth the righteous, because the righteous make them feel guilty. Okay? They're the only ones to whom the grave will actually shut its door on them forever. So this was great. Any other comment? You see how inspired we actually become when we talk about these things. It's so wonderful.
Terry, if I can just add perhaps something, and I know that there's only a few minutes left. I think uh, Tinashe's contribution in the field of narrative logotherapy has been
Yeah,
extremely
that's an
valuable.
interesting point. We didn't discuss that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been, so Tinashe has introduced me to the concept of narrative logotherapy and
Mm.
to Carla's previous comments of, being part of a new generation of logotherapists. I do think for us, the trainers around here, as well as the students, it is a field of logotherapy which I believe is extremely powerful, extremely valuable, has lots and lots of applications in the workplace as well. You find you people going to work 9 to 5 for 30 years and don't find it really meaningful. And at the end of their lives, they look back when they get the plastic watch that says, "Thank you for the 30 years of your life." And they go, "What was this all about?" Whereas narrative logotherapy can play a role in group sessions and also to examine what is it that I'm doing with my life? Where am I going with my work? My studies, my marriage sometimes, my relationships. Where am I going as a mom, as a dad, as a whatever? And narrative logotherapy, especially in a group session, can play very, very valuable roles in this. And I'm not aware of, in the South African context, that I've seen narrative logotherapy in a study or a research being done. So I think the work that Tinashe has done is truly groundbreaking, and certainly for the Viktor Frankl Institute of South Africa, it is worth for us looking into it and perhaps incorporating, seeing that we're all writing new curricula and everything now, incorporating perhaps a short session on the value of narrative logotherapy and also incorporating Tinashe's work and his study and research as perhaps part of prescribed material for students specifically in the advanced course. Because as some of you might know, we are currently looking at the curricula, specifically of the advanced and the professional courses. And as a closing remark, Tinashe, congratulations for opening this field to us as well, for enlightening us to it. I know that it is a known field, narrative logotherapy, but you've certainly enlightened me, and I think you've made a difference in many, many people's lives and into the future as well. And just before we say goodbye, Tinashe, it's been an absolute privilege walking this road with you for the last 5 years. I know it's not the end of the road. I'm very heartened by all the words that you've said tonight, especially about growing this to other students, etc. And I'm like we've always said when we were talking and working together, we need to also discuss curricula and including some of your work, etc., and getting more accreditation for it. Thank you, Teria, for that, and thank you, Tinashe, for the great 5 years that we've had together, and another great 5 years to come. Thank you.
Okay. What is that hand that is up? Is there somebody wanting to say something?
It was me, but
Oh,
then I just
okay. Well, let me just end and conclude with this. You've all thanked Tinashe so beautifully. But the suggestion of narrative logotherapy, we know that there is a narrative therapy, which is storytelling. Like there is emotional intelligence, like there is cognitive behavioral change, like there is psychoanalysis. They each have some truths to them, some great truths to them. But in logotherapy, it's all brought together because it's the various aspects that become part of the whole that is logotherapy. Your suggestion will be thought about, but I want to mention that we have, and we are in the process of developing what is and will be on our website as the Logotherapy Community Service Center. And it's there that I envision that people like Tinashe or anyone that then finish their course present their work as an outreach to the public, for which you are paid. Your services are being paid for by the public that you give your services to, and only a portion of that goes to the administration of the Viktor Frankl Institute. But the point is, we're all working together, and there's one community, logotherapy community service website that give to the public all of these different outreaches that they can choose from, whatever their particular need may be. And this is my, like I said, we grow from meaning to meaning. And this is an idea that grew with me as another push of what we have to do in our logotherapy training. And Tinashe, you very much in mind for being part of that, like many of our other students too, and our trainers. So thank you, everybody. What a wonderful evening this was. And good night.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.